Good afternoon. My name is Peter Bosworth, and I'm here with Jason Woody, and we're going to talk to you today about the Be More Clubhouse and how that helps mentally ill adults in Baltimore. Jason is our executive director, and I have been a volunteer and board member at Be More for about 6 or 7 years. So Jason, maybe to start off, it might be good for you to explain a little bit about the mission of Be More Clubhouse.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. So the mission of Be More Clubhouse is to empower adults who are living with mental illness to lead meaningful and productive lives of their choice in the community. So at the Clubhouse, that term empowerment is really important. We know that people are coming to us with already a great set of skills and experience that they can add to our group. But a lot of people, due to their illness, may have forgotten what their strengths are and haven't been able to apply them. So we're really a therapeutic environment that engages people, utilizes those strengths and skills in the actual clubhouse. Our members run our program alongside our staff for, anything from cleaning the bathrooms all the way up to our board of directors and management. But that is really the heart of what we do, is engaging people and helping them build their confidence and building a support network where they can rely on their peers and the clubhouse staff.
Thank you, Jason. That's a good introduction. Why don't we zoom out a little bit? Because as you know, our clubhouse is part of a larger organization called Clubhouse International. So could you tell us and our listeners a little bit about the origin of Clubhouse International and the role it plays in all the clubhouses around the world?
Sure, absolutely. So the first ever clubhouse opened in New York City in 1948, and that is called Fountain House. It's still there today in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood near Times Square. What had happened back around that time, where there were many psychiatric hospitals in upstate New York that had closed without much of a plan for support in terms of people returning to their communities. And there were a group of patients that all lived in New York City that decided that they would gather once they were released to just catch up and support one another. That sort of was the early origins of Fountain House. One of their family members eventually bought a building for them to spend time together in. But later down the road, there was a man named John Beard, and this is in the 70s, who had worked in psychiatric hospitals. And he had discovered through his patients that when he would engage them at his level, he was amazed at what he found. He was a person who was really interested in woodworking, and he would spend a lot of hours working at the hospital, and occasionally he would work on some of his own projects there. And he noticed that some of his patients would take an interest in these projects. And so he's like, you want to join me and would you like to participate in this? And he was just blown away. These were folks that were assumed to have basically no cognitive ability whatsoever, couldn't really even communicate with them, but he was realizing that, oh, wow, they can do this. And everyone assumed that they wouldn't be able to. So that really energized him, in terms of realizing that there are a lot of wrong assumptions about people with mental illness. I mean, back at that time, there weren't medications like we have today or advanced treatments that we have today. But even the most sick patients had a lot of wellness within them. And so he brought that concept to Fountain House. It started really just around okay, we need to eat, so let's all cook lunch together. It's these are things that need to happen. Someone needs to answer the phone. Someone needs to follow up, and schedule tours for people who want to join. And that's sort of the origin story of the clubhouse. It's very organic. Everything that happens in a clubhouse is done by and for the members and for potential members that will join in the future. It's a working community. But eventually, not too long after, John Beard sort of modernized the Clubhouse Model, there was an organization formed called Clubhouse International that basically is responsible for the governance of the model. There are 37 standards that you have to follow to be considered a clubhouse, to be accredited. There's an accreditation process every clubhouse goes through every 3 years. Be More Clubhouse has been accredited for the last 10 years. We've been around for 12. So yeah, that's their main role. I mean, advocating to advance the mission, but also just really the quality control in defining what a clubhouse is, maintaining and updating those standards, and making sure that clubhouses are applying them throughout the world. At this point, there's about 320 clubhouses in 33 countries, about 190 of which are in North America. We are the only clubhouse, Be More Clubhouse is the only clubhouse in the state of Maryland, and we hope to change that.
When you were just talking there, it struck me again that one of the things that's so unique about the Clubhouse model and the clubhouse is its origin and its action day to day throughout the years. It is emphasized on families and mentally ill adults making it happen. It's not a government program or something that's established from the outside. And I think that's so important. And in my 6 or 7 years at the clubhouse in Baltimore that we have, the thing that really impressed me more than all the specific activities and programs is the opportunity for our members to re-engage in what I call the momentum of daily life. And it's something that all of us, or many of us, take for granted. But if you're mentally ill, it can be incredibly elusive. And our clubhouse helps people find their way, helps our members find their way back to that. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how our programs and activities help in that regard, and also some of the markers that we've achieved in terms of members' accomplishments along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the most important thing I want to say in response to that is people who have a mental health diagnosis want and need the same things as people who don't, right? It's kind of simple for me. It's like everybody wants friendships, and everyone needs support and friendships, a purpose, a daily purpose, and opportunities for growth in terms of their personal selves, but also with their goals in relation to work and or school, improving housing. It's all the same things that everybody else wishes to achieve. And many of us, some of us have a harder time than others, I guess, depending on what challenges we're going through. So a lot of the members at the clubhouse, obviously everyone has a mental illness. Many of them are also facing other challenges based on the environment they've grown up in or here in Baltimore City. So first and foremost, we're an opportunity center, right? That's one way to very briefly describe the clubhouse. Like, people are coming, they're choosing how they want to engage with the clubhouse. Obviously, our structured work order day, where I mentioned where people are running the clubhouse alongside the staff. That's sort of the heart of the program. So members are coming in and choosing, do I want to help run the reception desk, or do I want to prepare lunch, or do I want to help with keeping track of our database? There's a million examples, but you can imagine all the different jobs that are involved with running a nonprofit organization. So that's sort of the meat and potatoes of the clubhouse, is the work order day, where members voluntarily attend and work at the clubhouse. And that, the intention with that is, well, one, it's practical. These are things that need to get done for the organization to run. But in terms of the therapeutic value, it's meaningful work. Again, people are utilizing skills they already have for the most part, sometimes gaining new skills along the way. And it's, as you mentioned, the momentum of daily life. People are building confidence. People are getting into a routine. People are seeing familiar faces every day. People are thanked for their participation because it is needed. People are truly needed. So there's an authenticity to that. And that, I heard a quote once, medication can't say thank you, and that's always stuck with me. I heard that about 15 years ago, and I've never forgotten it. I wish I could tell you who said that, but medication is very important for a lot of people, but human validation can't be replaced. And human validation happens all day, every day in the clubhouse. and that there's a lot of healing that comes along with that. So yeah, aside from the work order day, we have a structured employment program. We help to build partnerships with employers in the community, place members in jobs. We actually, our population here is adults who have serious mental illness, and the national rate of employment for that population is 10%. Be More Clubhouse is 4 times that, is 40%. So we're proud of that, and of course, we want to go even higher. We also help people to re-engage, re-enroll in school. Some people, mental illness does not discriminate. Some people come to us with advanced degrees, and some people have not finished high school. So we have people at every level in terms of their educational background and their work background. But wherever someone is, we meet them where they are and help them to get to that next step. So certainly we help people re-enroll in school and improve their housing conditions, access medical care if they don't have a physician or a psychiatrist or a therapist, or they're not satisfied with the one that they do have. We do a little bit of everything. So the other thing I didn't mention, which is really important, is that we did do a study with Johns Hopkins School of Public Health 5 years ago that discovered that our membership here at Be More Clubhouse has a 50% lower cost to the Maryland public mental health system compared to a control group of adults with mental illness in Baltimore City who are not members of the Clubhouse. So we know that this works. When you're not isolated, you're less likely to suffer the worst consequences of mental illness. And when you're engaged in something positive and moving forward with your life, good things happen.
Thank you, Jason. That was a lot of information and very helpful. One of the things I've always loved that we say about the Clubhouse that Jason told me about years ago is that at the Clubhouse, you are a person and not a patient. And I think a lot of what Jason talked about underlies that. Jason, you left off talking a little bit about money and some of the positive economic outcomes our members have, but maybe we should talk a little bit about how we get money, how we have funded ourselves. We've been around in our Clubhouse since about 2009, and I've noticed for the time I've been there, funding sources have changed. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about our history of that, and then maybe also with the greater awareness, public and governmental, certainly in mental health. What do you think that might predict about how funding might be in the future for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, as you mentioned, we were founded in 2009. Like many clubhouses that have popped up around the world, it was a true grassroots effort of community volunteers, largely people who have experience with mental illness themselves or a close friend or family member who really cared about this issue and knew about the Clubhouse Model and wanted to bring it to Baltimore. So it was a multi-year effort of those folks to kind of get things off the ground. So I think they actually started in 2006, and Be More Clubhouse officially opened its doors in April of 2009. So they put in a lot of hard work. But aside from, they themselves contributing and their network of friends and family, we had a couple local foundations, Stolman Foundation and Blostein Foundation, that provided some seed funding for the first few years to get us going. And really for 10 years, that's what it was, all privately funded. Of course, like our network of donors grew as we got the word out and as we got more folks involved and had fundraisers and luncheons and things of that sort. Of course, as we started to show some data and outcomes, other foundations became interested and we were able to grow our base of grants. But it's very hard to continue with only private sources of funding. So eventually we made the decision, our board and our leadership here made the decision to pursue Medicaid funding. And what that, I could talk an hour just about that, but basically what that involves is we had to go through a process where we became licensed as a psychiatric rehabilitation program through the Maryland Behavioral Health Administration, which then allowed us to submit claims for some of our services. So it's essential for a clubhouse to have open enrollment, to not require any sort of specific diagnosis or specific insurance. So we right now we are able to bill for about 25% of the people that we serve. So the vast majority still have to be funded through those private sources. And that's something that, we're trying to troubleshoot and trying to find other public funding sources to supplement any gaps that we have. But so far it's going well. I mean, we're doing a lot of advocacy work. Certainly Medicaid has been really important to sustaining the program while we're doing the long-term work of proving that the Clubhouse model is very valuable in Maryland. You asked about the future. I mean, we are still living through a global pandemic, right? And there's a lot of issues that have come into clear focus for people, and mental health is certainly one of them. A lot of people have suffered during this time in various ways, and I think it has created more conversation around mental health. So that's good in terms of like our advocacy and potential funding, but there's nothing that we can take for granted. There's certainly lots of federal funding floating around, and we're doing our best to identify things that we're eligible for. But right now, our main goal is just to get the word out and to bring people into the clubhouse here and show them in person that it really is an amazing place and a model that works.
Thank you, Jason. Just as a little follow-up on that, so back to the bigger picture of all the clubhouses in the U.S., a lot of them are funded by the state governments, and the state governments have gone all in and wanted them to expand, and a lot of that is based on their understanding the benefits of the clubhouse, both as it helps the members and also the economics that you referred to earlier, where the costs are much, much lower to help mentally ill adults. Do you have any just brief thoughts on how maybe our state, do you see any possible encouraging signs of our state maybe looking more to emulate some of the other states that have taken advantage of the clubhouse model?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly very hopeful for that. And we have had some good feedback. We brought in a number of local and state level officials, elected officials, but also people who work for various administrative departments at the state level. It's a work in progress, and we have to continue to show good outcomes and continue to grow our program in Baltimore. But certainly I hope and expect that this is something that's going to take off. I mean, the clubhouse model can fill so many gaps in the behavioral health system. Again, we're showing that here. We need some champions. We're looking for people, especially elected officials, who are really interested in this, that can help us navigate that process, because we are still relatively small nonprofit just here in Baltimore. But like you said, there are other states that have dozens of clubhouses, and there's certainly that potential here. But we're gonna need some help along the way.
Thank you, Jason. And just sort of closing out on the help along the way front there that you mentioned. We are always looking for help at Be More Clubhouse. And Jason, if someone who's watched this interview here is interested in volunteering their treasure or time to help Be More Clubhouse as we exist now in Baltimore, or maybe their interest is more universal and helping establish more of them, whether with us or on their own, with us guidance or however, what's the best way for people to contact to find out more about maybe being a board member or volunteering some of their skills, or just economics? What would they do?
Well, they can certainly call me or email me. Our phone number here is 410-727-2030. My email is jason.woody@bemoreclubhouse.org. We give tours every day. You don't have to be a potential member or even a potential funder or anything. If you're just curious, please reach out. We love giving tours. We just no strings attached whatsoever. As you mentioned, we are looking to add folks to our board, so there's potential there. You can learn a lot more about our organization on our website. Again, bemoreclubhouse.org or clubhouse-intl.org, Clubhouse International. But yeah, that's the first thing I'd recommend. Try to come down for a tour and see it for yourself, because there's nothing that can replicate that experience. You can read about it and sort of understand what it's about, but until you really feel it and experience it, it's hard to really grasp what a clubhouse is and how special it is. So I would encourage everyone to do that.
Thank you very much, Jason. And just to be clear, we are in Mount Vernon. We're at 831 North Calvert Street. And our origin story is kind of unique on that building. We are in a 100-year-old building that was a firehouse originally for the city. Then it was a brew pub house. And then we bought it last year, and now it's a clubhouse. So it's always had a mission, and I'm very happy for the mission that is there now. So, Jason, thank you so much for your passion and your thoughts and your leadership and your time today. And that concludes our interview about Be More Clubhouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.